Hello, everyone. Hope about to say July. Moving too fast already in the beginning of the year. Hope your January has been going well. We got 2 weeks left. So, hope it's going well wherever you are. It's supposed to snow this weekend where I'm at. Luckily, I'm off the day it's supposed to snow, but we'll see how bad it is. Sometimes they hype it up and don't nothing really happen. So, we'll see, y'all. As always, What If I Ruled the World? Poems inspired by music, written by me, your boy. Always linked in the description, always linked in the link tree. So now that that is over, let's get into what we're supposed to talk about today, which is I listened to the Hunger Games audiobook and I also watched the Hunger Games movie. So we're going to start off with the book because I genuinely think that, you know, books are always better than the movies. I feel like sometimes the essence of the book can't be contained in the movie, which I think in this case absolutely is true. So, it's a dystopian book, and the author is Suzanne Collins, and I'm going to get into her biography. Oh wow, I did not realize how long this biography was. I'm pretty sure this is from her site. We might be skipping around a little bit. In 1991, Suzanne Collins began her professional career writing for children's television. She worked on the staffs of several Nickelodeon shows, including Emmy-nominated hit Clarissa Explains It All and The Mystery Files of Shelby Woo. Most recently, she was the head writer for the Scholastic's Entertainment's Clifford's Puppy Days, an influencer on Wow Wow Wowzy, while working on a kids WB show called Generation She met children's author and illustrator James Priomus, who talked her into giving children's books a try. So okay, so now I feel like all of this is actually necessary. I'm gonna try to. Uh, I always say I'm gonna try to skip through stuff, but I actually am. So we're just gonna go straight. So her first series, she was thinking one day about Alice in Wonderland and struck by how pastoral the setting must seem to kids like her own who lived in urban settings. So she said, "You're more likely to fall into a manhole than a rabbit hole in New York. If you do, you're not going to find a tea party. What might you find? Well, that's the story of Gregor the Overlander, the first book in her 5-part fantasy war series, The Underland Chronicles, which became a New York Times bestseller. And her next series is The Hunger Games, a dystopian war story composed of 5 books, including the initial trilogy, The Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and Mockingjay, and 2 prequels, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and Sunrise on the Reaping. It's been over 7 years to date on the New York Times bestseller list since publication in September 2008, and it's also appeared consistently on the USAA and Published Weekly bestseller list. It's sold in over 55 language, international bestseller. On October 1st, 2024, the publication of her first book is the illustrated series saw the publication of the first book in the illustrated series with art by Nico Delort. Hope I said his name right. And then there are audiobooks in English by Tatiana Mansley, Santino Fontana, and Jefferson White. So the one I'm listening to is by a different woman, but the ones with Tatiana Maslany are very popular because those ones are always hard to get a hold of. Okay, then it was made into The Hunger Games, the film adaptation by Lionsgate, March 23rd, 2012. My brain is going crazy today, y'all. Directed by Gary Ross, who also shared the screenplay credit with Suzanne and Billy Ray. It broke multiple box office records. The second installment was the next year, November 22nd, 2013, which I have watched as well. I'm almost done with the third book, so I don't want to watch the movie just yet. And then they released two parts of the Hunger Games Mockingjay. So part one, which is the third book of the initial trilogy, was released November 21st, 2014. Second part was the next year, November 20th, 2015. Oh, it was directed by Jennifer Lawrence, apparently. That's cool. We can talk about her later. Yeah. Okay, so then okay, and then the latest movie, one of the prequels, was released on November 17th, 2023. The Hunger Games Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, directed by Francis Lawrence. Oh, maybe they're talking about Francis Lawrence. Are they talking about Francis Lawrence or Jennifer Lawrence? Because the first one, they just say directed by Lawrence, but they don't say which Lawrence. Maybe it is Jennifer Lawrence. I have to look that up. Because the other guy, his name's also Lawrence, his last name. So yeah, so that was one of the prequels. So after this book, I'm going to read the prequel books or listen to them because they're audiobooks. And then there is another book coming out. I mean, another movie, The Hunger Games: Sunrise on the Reaping, which is another prequel, coming out this year, November 20th, 2026. And Suzanne has been an executive producer on all 6 films. So yeah, and then let's get into some of her awards. She was named Time 100. She was named to the Time 100 list as well as the Entertainment Weekly Entertainers of the Year year list in 2010. 2016, she was presented with the 2016 Authors Guild Award for distinguished service to the literary community for amplifying unique power of young people's literature to change lives, create lifelong book readers. So that's just some of her lore. She has a lot going on. Her books have sold over 100 million copies worldwide. All right. And then the book was released October 1st, 2008. And here's the synopsis. In the ruins of a place once known as North America lies the nation of Panem, a shining capital surrounded by 12 outlying districts. The capital is harsh and cruel and keeps the districts in line by forcing them all to send one boy and one girl between the ages of 12 and 18 to participate in annual Hunger Games, a fight to the death on live TV. 16-year-old Katniss, who lives alone with her mother and young sister, regards it as a death sentence when she steps forward to take her sister's place in the games. But Katniss has been close to death before and death before and survival. Oh, and survival for her is second nature. Without really meaning to, she becomes a contender. But if she is to win, she will have to start making choices that weigh survival against humanity and life against love. So yeah, I feel like, is that a spoiler? But I'm pretty sure it's in the trailer that she did volunteer herself. So I don't think it's really like a spoiler per se. So, oh whoops! I was supposed to put a little thing for the characters. Um, well, it's not there now. Let me check. So of course, Katniss Everdeen is the main character. As always, my internet is deciding to go slow. So there's Katniss Everdeen. She's the main character. Here we go. And then Peeta is another boy from her district. Peter May. I feel like I'm saying his name wrong because I feel like they said it differently in the movie than I would have pronounced it. That's probably why. Peter Maylark. Does it have a list of the characters' themes? Critical reception, film adaptation. Okay, Primrose is her sister. And then when she gets to the capital, she has a chaperone named Effie Trinket, who's very flamboyant, colorful, totally over decadent like the Capitol. Oh, there's another Brenner from her village, Hamish Abernathy, and he won like many years ago. But now, because of the games, I'm definitely leave you with psychological scars. He is an alcoholic. Okay, let's see what other things. I want to tell you about the people in the arena. Oh, Senna is her stylist, and they're very close. And he's like a great ally for her. I guess those are like the main characters that you should know about. Besides the kids who are in the game, I would say Rue is an ally to Katniss, and she's important as well. So those are the big main characters that you need to know. Besides the other kids who are in the game. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over my pros and my cons and my overall opinion. So my pros are the characters, even though I didn't name all of them. I feel like they're all very I'm trying to think of well rounded. They all have their like background stories, they have their connections to each other. And I will say maybe not the capital people per se, although they do talk about their lives. And considering what's happening, it's kind of very trivial that they're upset that they can't have this or their party didn't go well or something. When they're helping, kids get dressed and made up to go fight to the death, it's a little crazy. I did like Gail. Oh yeah, Gail is Katniss's friend, best friend back home, and yeah, and he was cool. They talk about their hunting and everything, and I feel like they're really developed. Even Katniss, which I do have a con about her, but it's like my only con, so we'll get into that later. And I love the story. I love how the story's told, and like you get a little background from Katniss with Gale and her family, and like what she went through with her mother, and why her father's not there. Spoiler alert. Um, and like what they went through for all of those things. Um, and yeah, you're pretty much in Katniss's head in all of the books, so you like really, I feel like you really get to know her, but also sometimes it seems like she doesn't really know herself, and like getting thrown into this world, and of course, all the psychological uh effects afterwards, and the trauma. So there's that. And then just the trauma also of them like being in these districts, and they're poor, pretty much. Besides like a few of them that are like maybe well off, but yeah, basically everybody's starving, and they do these Hunger Games to keep all of the districts in line, because they Capitol says, "Oh yeah, we destroyed uh, District 13, and then you don't want to be like District 13," like all these things, like basically to brainwash you, and it's really intense for the story. Um, and then the details and the action. Oh my goodness, especially in the arena. Like I feel like the details were like immense. I loved all the details about the Capitol, about like what they would eat, and like what the things that they would do, and like how they looked. Especially because the Capitol people are apparently like, um, of course it goes off right now. The Capitol people are very extravagant, and they're like different colors. Sometimes they dye their skin. Sometimes they are made to look like other animals, and they do all these enhancements and different things. Which I can't remember if she mentions this in the first book, but when I watched the movie, she mentions frequently that President Snow has like, um, what's that called? Like lip filler, where his lips look grotesque. And in the movie, they didn't really commit to it. And I was like, oh. And I thought he was gonna look more plastic surgery, like Uncanny Valley. But maybe the actor was like, I ain't about to do all that. So, I mean, it is what it is. But the details and the action in the arena was like, I was like actually kind of scared. I felt like I was in the arena. Like the details that Suzanne Collins wrote were really great. Sometimes a little too great, because I was like, I want to get up out of here after hearing all this and imagining all of it in my mind. And this is going to be a bit of a spoiler, even though I feel like most of this video might be a spoiler alert, because I am going to go into details that were not that were in the book but not in the movie. And the Mockingjay pen was like a big symbol. And in the book, they explain it more. I think maybe in the second one, so I don't want to spoil too much. But it's a big symbol, but not at first. In the movie, they kind of make it a symbol from the beginning. So Madge, um, Katniss's friend, gives her the pen, and then once we go to like either it might be the same book, the first book, I can't remember, or the second book, they actually go into like the meaning, like where it came from originally. It's really deep, and I feel like the movie just like unless it's gonna be in like some of the other movies, I'm not sure, but they don't really go in depth in like the meaning and like um how in depth it is. And also, a lot of it is cut, even though the movie's like 2 hours long. But I will say, these books are like 11 to 12 hours long. So I guess, something's going to get cut. So my one con is that Katniss, she can be kind of boring and unremarkable, honestly. It's like, why is she the main character? So I did feel like that at times. But, I do understand like her struggles of having the nightmares after and then having to deal with like killing other children to survive, and especially in the second book, which I'm not going to spoil just in case you haven't read it, but it's like a big thing that happens and it's like crazy. But I feel like there's a lot of big things. I feel like the second book is my favorite, honestly. Um, so yeah, that's my pros and my cons, and here's my overall opinion. It's very exciting and intense. I loved Katniss as a main character, even though I did say sometimes she's a little boring, and I'm like, why is she the main character? Uh, but I do love Peeta and her relationship. Looking forward to how it evolves. This is gonna be a bit of a spoiler, but I loved her tribute for Rue, and I was very sad when something happened to Rue, as you can imagine. I wish we could have learned more about her. Um, and I'm trying to remember if it's in the second book where they go on the victory tour, because I've read them back to back to back. Because I'm like, I just want to keep the story going. And I'm pretty sure it's the second book where she finally gets to talk to like or address Rue's family, like when they go on their victory tour and they're doing their speeches. So that was also very sad. However, otherwise, her kind of being like boring. I do think it was very riveting and captivating. So I look forward to continuing the series, and I'll give this book an 8 out of 10. I'm actually almost finished the third book. I have like 2 or 3 hours left, maybe 2 hours left now, but I'm very excited to finish it because I'm just like, I'm just wondering how everything's going to go because a lot has happened since the first book. All right. So let's get into the movie. Once again, it's a dystopian action film. In the film, Katniss Everdeen and Peter Malark. Uh, I feel like they say Malark in the movie. Malark are forced to compete in the Hunger Games, an elaborate televised fight to the death consisting of from adolescent contestants from 12 of the districts of Panem. And it was released March 23rd, 2012, directed by Gary Ross. Jennifer Lawrence is Katniss Everdeen. Josh Hutcherson is Peter Malark. Malark? Malark? You know what his name is. Liam Hemsworth as Gale Hawthorne. Woody Harrelson as Hamish Abernathy. Elizabeth Banks as Effie Trinket. Lenny Kravitz as Senna, which was a little surprising to me. But I feel like he did the part well. Stanley Tucci as Caesar Flickerman, who is like the host of like it's basically a reality show where they show everything and then they have them also making commentary live, which is very interesting because that was one aspect that I liked. You did not get to see in the book because everything's from Katniss's perspective, so you don't get to see like how they're reacting outside of her being actually in the games. Donald Sutherland as President Cornelius Snow, which I think the fourth book is his prequel or Hamish's prequel, but the other prequel, the fifth book, might be his. So we'll see. I can't remember which one's which. Um, Wes Bentley is Seneca Crane, who is a game maker. Trying to see if anybody's. Oh, and then some of the other contestants: Alexander Ludwig as Kato, who's one of the competitors. Isabella uh, Foreman as Clove, one of the characters, one of the kids who's in the Hunger Games. Amanda Steinberg as Rue. Jacqueline Emerson as Foxface. Jack Quaid as Marvel, which I don't remember Marvel at all. Levin Rambin as Glitter. Deo Okin Niwai as Thresh, and then Willow Shields as Prime Rose Everdeen, and Paula Malcolmson as Mrs. Everdeen, the mom. And then where can you stream it? Amazon Prime, Apple TV, Fandango at home, Google Play, Movies and TV, YouTube, and Peacock. I watched it on Peacock actually. So I'm going to talk about my pros and my cons and my overall opinion again. So I do love the aesthetics, although I'm going to be honest, it wasn't 100% what I was imagining. But I do like you get to see the world, you get to see like all the aesthetic things of the Capitol and how people were dressed for the parade. And like you get to see all the characters. So that was good. And I thought all the characters looked pretty accurate to what I imagined. I did kind of imagine Peter to be like more tall than like skinny. But you know what? I feel like everybody looked the part at least. Oh, the live footage. I talked about that already. It was nice seeing like the interview and like during the games, like how people were reacting, and like you get to see the different perspectives. So I did like that. And it was very like disturbing to see like Caesar Flickerman, and I forgot the other host guy name. I think his name was Claudius. Yeah, Toby Jones is Claudius Temple Smith. I think that was another one of the host guys, and they're just yucking it up, making jokes as kids are fighting to their death. So that was a little crazy. The acting, some characters like Gail, Prim, Caesar, Effie, pretty much everyone. I feel like besides Jennifer Lawrence, she wasn't doing it for me, but everybody else were doing really great, and they really embodied their characters. So I feel like that was good, and I think Lenny Kravitz as Senna was really good. I just wished they had more depth with their relationship because they were really close. And then, like, the movie kind of took that away. So those are my pros. Let's get into my cons. So the characters and acting. So there's no in depth like their backgrounds really. So it's kind of just surface level. Like you kind of get like the backstory, but it's like a flash. You don't really get anything in depth. And then Jennifer Lawrence. I'm not a fan of her. I talked about that in my short video, and she just was not doing it for me. I feel like the second movie was a little better because you did get to see like other characters. You got to like kind of see more of the training and stuff. And then my second con is the story. They tried to show more than tell, but they barely showed anything, even with that. So it's like you're showing, but you're still not filling in the gaps of like the backstory and like things that are important to the story, in my opinion. And then the details and action or lack thereof. So like I made a list, like the train ride was more intense. They had like her and Peter were connecting. They had like other conversations and stuff. The costume design process was more intense. The prep team process, they did show it, but I didn't realize like how sterile it was gonna be. I thought it was kind of more hands on. The training process was like, you know, not really shown like as in depth. The interview prep, like they didn't even show that at all. Rue and Katniss's relationship, like how really close they were, they didn't really show all of that. So there's a lot of stuff missing. And then the Mockingjay pen. So the book, Madge gives it, like we said, and in the movie, some random lady gives it. And I'm wondering, they don't mention that in the second book. I mean, not the second book, the second movie, by the way. So they don't even mention like where the pen originated from. So I'm wondering if the third book or the third movie, the third and fourth movie, are they going to elaborate on that or not? Because I don't think they are because at this point it's like a mute point to even bring up like the origin of it because we're kind of way past it once we get to the third book. And I just didn't like that it was like some random woman and she was like, "Oh, I'm giving it to you for free," and it's like kind of cheapened like that symbol that was supposed to be so important. All right, let's get into my overall opinion. I honestly was so excited to finally watch the movie from the book I loved. I was greatly disappointed though. All the details that could have been shown were glanced over. I wish we could have seen all the excess of the Capitol and how strange it was for Peter and Katniss. Like we saw a little bit of it in the second one, and how their love quotes story really panned out after the games. Like they kind of made it seem like they were like what happened at the end of the book. Like you could kind of tell, like in the movie, they kind of act like something happened between them, but they don't really elaborate. I think the cast had the looks and everyone acted well except Jennifer Lawrence. Didn't deliver for me. It was like all the important moments were kind of flashed by really quickly with no depth. I would give this movie a 3 out of 10. I have watched Catching Fire, the second movie, and it was a little better. It was great seeing all the characters from that book. So I will keep watching them all since I do plan on reading all the books. So yeah, no, it's kind of like gonna be. I don't know if a hate watch is the right word to say, but I just want to watch them because I'm like I'm gonna read all the books. I might as well, you know. And then I'm gonna go on a little rant. It's called Differences Rant. I really hate how the movie changed or cut out very important details. I wish they could have used like the long runtime to their advantage. And I really fleshed out the important moments. Like I said, it was just like kind of everything was speed run. And I feel like I did a disservice to the books, which I know the books are like probably hundreds of, I don't know if hundreds of hours, but they're at least, well, they might be because like 11, that's 11 plus 22, like three or four or five of those. Yeah, so I can see that. Um, but I do think the books would have been better as a series with all of the details that were given. But I know that movies make more money and are like more of an event. So I do understand why they went in that direction. But I do wish the Capitol and the characters' lives were explored more in depth and given the dimension that have, the books have for them. Because a lot of these characters, like, there's a lot of personal connections that are made, but you don't really get that feeling from watching the movies. It's just kind of sterile to me, just kind of like matter of factly and like no connections, in my opinion. But have you read the Hunger Games books? Have you watched all the movies? Do you have a preference? Obviously, I prefer the books. Um, and I'm just gonna keep going through them and keep going through the movies and watch the new one. So let me know what you think and your thoughts, and I will see you all next week.